There you go, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. You?
Yeah, yeah. Can't complain. Can't complain. In Kansas, the most happening spot in all of America. You know.
Have you met your Dorothy yet?
Oh man. I'm not gonna go into too much of a colorful description of some of the people here, but there will be no meeting any Dorothys. I will be sticking to European girls. That'll be for damn sure. So I'll be waiting until I travel again before I try and meet anybody.
Fair enough. Yeah, my hometown's a little bit like that. It's there's a lot of crackheads scuttling about and that sort of thing. So
Yeah, same here, mate. Unfortunately, apparently, what I've been told, I don't know how true this is, but a very big meth highway runs right on one of the highways that's quite close by to Topeka. And man, Topeka is a mess. So much meth. So I'm not in Topeka itself. You know that crazy church, the West Baptist Church or
West
Westminster?
Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah, that one.
You're
That's
there.
here. That's in Topeka. That's
Damn.
so, yeah. So I've already seen them picket in the streets and stuff. Luckily, I'm about an hour away from there. I'm in a small town just north. But even here, man, every girl's got a string of kids. Each one at a different fucking guy. Um, and it's a no. It's a solid no, mate.
It's not much different back here. Like moving back to the country and sort of catching, well, not really old friends, but old people you know, and you just think like, damn, you hit every branch on the way out of the tree. You know, it's just they just couldn't catch a break. You know.
Yeah.
um, Yeah, luckily my close friends are all doing pretty well, and you know they've all got sort of like decent jobs and decent lives and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of them about. A lot of them about.
And the sad part is here, though, most of them are their own worst enemies.
Yeah,
Like they just spend their money on bullshit, like random bullshit. There's a guy I spoke to the other day. He's like, "Yeah, I don't have my kids with me this time, but if I did have, I would have spent like $600 on fireworks." I'm like, $600 on fireworks just to,
yeah,
and you're not the most well-off dude in the world. Like you can use $600 and use it in a different direction, but he's whatever, mate. Okay.
yeah. There's a lot of that nowadays. Sort of this. I don't know. It's sort of like it's almost just a cultural sort of narcissism where people want to appear like they've got everything, but really they haven't got much. You know, it's sort of flashy
Mm,
trainers, nice watches, you know, cars that they can't afford, all that. It's
yeah.
mad.
Yeah. No, you're very, very true. Very true. I mean, most of the people that listen to a podcast like this, they're just saving money to go
Yeah,
traveling again.
yeah,
And at least they've got a goal in mind. At least I'm saving to go traveling. You're in the same shoes. Like you're saving to go traveling again,
yeah.
which even that is a more, call it an admirable thing than just buying a shit ton of fucking fireworks and watching it go boom in one day. How
Yeah.
how long could you live with $600 in a country like Cambodia or Vietnam or Laos or
I when I landed back in Malaysia, I had $100 to my name, and I made that last me 4 months. So
4 months?
yeah, I could probably live in Malaysia. I could probably live there if I got to know people and sort of that sort of thing. I could do 6 months for $600 easy.
Right?
Yeah, it's sort of there's plenty of places to work, pick up some shifts at a hostel, just I just like doing whatever I can. So hey,
Mm,
but yeah, $600 doesn't get you far in England at all.
no, no. But still here in the States, like $600, $600 is still $600. I mean, you can almost buy a crappy car with that.
Yeah, you could get a car here. Something like a 2000 Skoda or something with 3 doors and bloodstains in the back or something. But
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, well, whatever. People. But to your question, have I met a Dorothy, mate? No, no, solid no. Um, a friend of mine is actually dating a girl from Chile.
oh,
Yeah, nice girl, and I think even that is like more the way to go. You know,
yeah.
get a start. Yeah.
There's something about small town girls that sort of breeds a certain. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to explain it, but like, I live in quite a small town. It's got a big population, but everybody kind of knows everyone, and it breeds a certain mentality. It's weird.
Well, Grant, I've spent about between 3 and 4 years cumulatively in America between the different work contracts that I've done. And this time around, I'm not so focused on work, and I'm more focusing on, okay, fine, this is where I'm going to be staying long term now. So find a little bit more, ask a little bit more questions about the culture, the people, the do's and don'ts, just like the normal atmosphere when it comes to certain things. And dating for the last, I don't know how many years, I predominantly dated European girls. And every single one, there was no exception. If we go out to dinner, they want to pay half. Like, there is a small, like, if I want to go to a fancy place and I go, look, this is my treat, there will still be some pushback, but I'll be, eventually they'll be like, okay, fine, this is what I'll get the next time. But there will most definitely be, I'll get the next. Most European girls that I've seen are like that. If I tell that story to any American guy, he's like, you're not going to find any of those here.
Yeah, I've heard the same from friends where it's sort of a very different attitude towards dating. Over there, it's still much like the guy has to cough up to sort of earn your time, and it's a weird concept.
It is a little bit, not a little bit. It's a lot. It's like the European women have figured out what is the difference between a partner and a dependent.
Yeah, yeah.
And they know what it is to be a partner.
Yeah.
A partner, like, I went traveling through a few countries with some of my exes, and they paid half for everything. And not that I insisted, not at all. It's like, hey, I pay half for the hotel, I pay half for this, I pay half for the food. If you get this meal, I'll get the next one. And they mean it.
Yeah.
Here, not so much. And I've just gotten used to that. So I don't think I will very easily fall into the, okay, I've got to pay everything just for you to have a free ride kind of mentality that a lot of American women have here. I'm not going to say all, but a lot.
It is. It's sort of when I first moved back here, I went back into like the dating scene or whatever you call it, and some red flags sort of float. Yeah, girls that are like, well, you're taking me out to dinner, you pay, and it's like, hold on a minute, like it's supposed to be that, like, if you can imagine it, like a girl on a first date is probably the nicest, kindest she's ever going to be to put across a good image, and if she's treating you that way already, it's like, where's this going to go? Like, you're supposed to treat your partner like your best friend. You wouldn't say to your best friend, let's go out for a meal, oh, by the way, you're fucking paying. It's kind of, like you say, it's meant to be a partner, not a person to rely on kind of thing. But I think England's a little better on that. I think, at least, anyway.
When it comes to stuff like this, obviously, I haven't seen any studies, peer-reviewed studies on it. I can only go on anecdotal crap that I've experienced, and I've only dated one English girl.
No.
And she was older. She was, quite a few years older than me. But she was like that. She also like, no, I pay half.
Yeah.
My last European girlfriend, she was quite adamant. Like, if I wanted to have a fight on my hands, I would say, "Look, I'm paying for it." And she's like, "No, you are. I'm paying half." And she was very adamant. Um,
I think it comes down to like my girlfriend at the moment, Lucy. Like she'll be like that. It's not because she wants to pay half because she feels guilty that you're not going to pay the whole thing or that sort of thing. It's more that screw you, mate. I can pay half. I stand on my own 2 feet. You don't need to look after me. You don't do this. And I think that's far more telling of someone's character than if they just want to be there for the free meal, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And
no, true. So, and you and her went where? I saw you guys went to. Oh, and I saw a photo of her. She's quite sexy.
oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you
Managed.
old dog, you.
No, we went to Vienna. We went to Austria, and then sort of travelled around. Went to Bratislava. That was a fun day out. That was a Bratislava is a weird place, sort of a very ex-communist vibe. Um, hasn't changed much from what I've heard over the years, but amazing food. Oh my God! Like just all this like schnitzel and all these deep fried cheeses and just I was ready to settle down and become the 300-pound man there. It was good food. Yeah. Like all my photos I took in Bratislava are of either sort of scenic views or just different dishes that I'd ordered.
I've never heard like I don't know much about traveling through Europe at all, but I've never heard like that is this culinary anomaly.
I don't think it would be like culinary. You wouldn't say like, oh, it's up there with sort of French cuisine or sort of some European cuisines, but it's sort of just it's downright dirty food that you know is bad for you, but done well, and it just hits a spot. You know, it's like buying that. It's buying like a greasy burger, and you're just like, oh, this is so good, but it's not. It wouldn't win any awards, but you'd buy it every day.
Okay.
Good, good
Okay.
food.
That's a good description. I like that.
Yeah, it was a cool country. We got the train there from Vienna. It takes a couple of hours, relatively cheap as well to get about. But and then we got to the station, got a taxi out into sort of the woods and the hills behind Bratislava, and the taxi drivers over there are mental. If they can drive at full speed, like 100 miles an hour, they will. Roundabouts are optional. That's kind of a thing over there. It's just, yeah, someone's coming, but I'm going. It was a cool place, and Vienna was lovely. I recently got like voted like one of the best cities in the world to live in, and I can believe it. It's just great music scene, great everything, great restaurants, great people. Yeah, cool place, but expensive.
Most European countries are for
Yeah,
the backpacker. I mean, most backpackers that I know kind of stick to third world developing countries. A, because there's a hell of a lot to see, and B, because it's cheap.
yeah. The cheapness is the thing. It's like my plan was to come back and then travel sort of southern Europe along the Mediterranean coast, and then sort of after crunching the numbers, I was like, I could live in Asia for 3 years on this when I could only get 6 months in Europe. You know, an average hostel in Spain is 30 euros a night, whereas
What?
yeah, and there you could probably find cheaper if you hunted around, but 30 euros a night would get you probably sort of like a 4 or 5 star hotel in some Asian countries. You know?
Sure. Okay. So, what's your next trip? What are you thinking of?
Well, we're waiting for the coronavirus to blow over, and then we are out of here. First stop is India, and then we are taking a bus up to Kashmir and Ladakh up in the north of India there, and then basically work our way across Asia again, similar to what I did before, but slightly different. So it's going to be about 12 countries in total, and then hopefully get a bit of work in Australia.
All right. Yeah, you got to keep me informed. Tell me where you are. I'm stuck in America for quite a while now, so I'm not going to be able to go anywhere for a bit. But live vicariously through others, as most people are right now that are locked up, and thanks to COVID.
Yeah.
Um, So which countries, if you would have to point, first and second on your list of the ones that you enjoyed the utmost?
Uh, Nepal. I just love that country. Just like if you love, I know you're not one for hiking. You always make fun of me for that. Like, why would you walk somewhere and then walk back and all this sort of thing? But yeah, the people in Nepal are probably the friendliest I've ever met. Sort of crossing the border from India into Nepal was just a complete contrast. India is just chaotic and people everywhere, and then Nepal is just really chilled out and no one wants any bother, and they just want to be happy. That's a weird concept, but they just want to be chilled and happy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going back to Nepal. I miss that country quite a lot. I didn't get to see much of it. So, and then my second option would probably be Malaysia, just because of the amount of time I spent there. Sort of got to see a different side of a country for the best part of a year, and yeah, Malaysia was.
There is definitely something to say about going to a country when you only have, if you're only there on holiday for a short period of time, you have holiday goggles on. You're in holiday mode, so you don't really live there. You don't see, like a friend that I had on the podcast, Holly. She went to South Africa.
Yeah.
And I told her, don't go, it's dangerous, blah 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 blah. But she had a friend there, which does make it a little bit better, like having a chaperone. But she went there, I think for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I can't remember. But holiday mode, holiday goggles, holiday point of view. She didn't live there, having to drive her kids to work and back, knowing the politics and how it directly affects your everyday to day life. How poor the police is. Point being that only when you stay in a country, and I've had this conversation with a couple of old school travelers, and they've told me their point is about 3 months. Once you've been in a country for more than 3 months, the glossiness starts wearing off. The novelty of it being a new place starts wearing off, and then you start seeing the cracks.
Oh, for sure.
Then the couple of bad habits that locals do, then they start, to come a little bit more to the forefront. Now it's not just all about going to the beach, going to a waterfall, seeing new places and going on an adventure and all that kind of crap. Now you live there.
Yeah.
So you having stayed so long in Malaysia, it kind of gives you a little bit of a different point of view than most.
Yes, you sort of hit it right on the head. It's the holiday goggles wear off after, I think for me it was about a month, maybe 2 months. And you're right, you start seeing sort of the cracks, and what was a novelty of all the bad drivers now becomes just an annoyance, because you have to be part of that. You have to be on the road with them, and just sort of not so much the corruption, but just there's Asia time. Someone says, "Oh, I'll be here at 4 o'clock," and they turn up at 6:45, and like at first you're like, "Haha, that's all funny," and now you're just like, "Look, motherfucker, I got to get somewhere. Hurry up!" Like it all just loses its mentality. So yeah, it definitely happens. It was about 2 months for me. So
yeah. Okay, so tell me about the let's start with Nepal. Why did this place make such an impression if you weren't there for that long?
I was traveling on my own at most of Nepal, so it was kind of like a sort of a younger version of myself, just wandering around, sort of starry-eyed, kind of staring up at these huge mountains that I've always dreamt of, and these just ridiculously deep like valleys and gullies that swallow up buses. That it was kind of always been on the top of my list since I was probably about 7, and it was the one country that I've been to where you kind of have like a mindset, okay, it's going to be like this, it's either a bit of a poor country or it's quite a rich country, and then you get there and you go, oh, actually it's completely different. But Nepal was everything I'd ever read about plus more, and it didn't disappoint. It really didn't. It's such a nice country, and the people there deserve all the sort of investment that they can get, because they're probably the hardest working people I've ever met. The reason I actually went to Nepal was to go and do the Annapurna circuit. And, I'm some gangly little white boy from one of the richest countries in the world, trying to do this hike with my 10-kilo backpack on, and I stop for a rest and sit down for 5 minutes, and this 16-year-old kid walks past me with like a refrigerator strapped to his back, and just looks at me, and it doesn't say anything, but you could just see it in his eyes that he's just going pussy, and like instantly I'm like, oh come on, like I thought I was having a tough day climbing up with my 10 kilos, and he's got like what, a 200-kilo fridge on his back, just didn't even break a sweat, just carried on going past me. And I've never felt so emasculated in all my life, just sitting on my little rock, just
That's gotta suck.
I got a photo of him somewhere, I think, somewhere about, but yeah, I just remember sort of looking at him, just being like, oh, what have I got to complain about? Come on, let's go, and that kind of set my mindset.
So you took a photo of the guy. You're like, wait, I'm not going to help you carry the fridge, mate. But what I do want to do is I want to take the photo of you just real quick.
I took the photo because I thought I was like, I was a little bit dehydrated. I thought I was like some sort of mirage, or I was hallucinating or something. Like, if you're in the mountains in like this alpine snowy area and you sort of see a guy coming over the ridge with a fucking fridge on his back, you'd think you're tripping.
Okay. Well, I don't know jack about Nepal. So do the majority of people fly in? You said you crossed the border from India.
Yeah, I think the majority of people fly in. It's kind of a bit of a circuit where people will travel sort of northern India and then up over to the border at various areas. But when I was crossing the border, I probably saw 2 or 3 Westerners or travelers such. I think the majority of people fly in. I think it's just easier. It's relatively cheap, but yeah, that's what I saw at least anyway. But the border area, sort of, I guess if you fly into Kathmandu and then travel to the certain routes that people do, I think you miss a lot of the country. You sort of miss the bit that isn't getting the tourism, isn't getting, built up as such. And I think you miss what really truly is Nepal. Just good people, yeah, just nice people everywhere.
So India is not on the list of 1-2.
India's up there as one of my favorite countries, but it's also down there as one of my worst countries. Just like some guy tried to rob me in India, but then there were some very nice people in India, and yeah, it's a country of sort of black and white. It's very hard on or very, very nice to be there. Some places were great, and some places you just sort of. I remember one town, I can't remember where it was. I got off the train and there was like a car just on fire with the police standing next to it, and I got back on the train and left. It was just like, fair enough. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've heard mixed things. I've heard people say more than one that you either love India or you hate India. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, I'd say I'm definitely in the love category. I can't wait to go back, but I think that's now because I know what I'm prepared for. India was one of my first countries in Asia that I went to, and sort of getting out of Delhi train station from the airport and just seeing what felt like the entire population of their country, 1 billion plus people just standing there trying to sell you everything they can. It was a bit of a shock to the system, but now I'm going back. I'm like, okay, now I know what to expect. This is India. India's beautiful because of this reason. I want to go back for that. So
you do grow a thicker skin, and you have to get a thicker skin pretty quick. I mean, you see the meek, kind of timid, novice travelers getting out of a train station and just being. Everybody gets surrounded by people that want to sell you stuff, but there's a clear difference between the experienced travelers and the like timid kind of meek ones that very softly say no thanks, and still trying to be polite to a sense.
Yeah.
And then the guys that have traveled and girls that have traveled for a while, they just go fuck off. No, I'm done. No.
Yeah.
And the people, I mean, that's really what they respond to. They immediately see, oh, okay, I'm not going to sell anything to this guy, but that guy is kind of saying no hesitantly, so I'm going to keep on ragging him.
Yeah, they're very for what I imagine is their second language, they're very masterful with the English language of being able to sort of worm their way into a conversation and with certain people sort of get money out of them or get whatever they want out of them. And sort of sitting there watching that happen, it's just like you say, sort of more timid travelers. It's sort of props to them. They know their trade and how to apply it to the travelers. It's almost an art form.
I wouldn't give them that much credit, mate. They irritate the piss out of me, but I'm one of those. No, get the fuck away from me. No, I told you no, didn't I? Did I not tell you no? Are you deaf? Do I need to like what? And yeah, because I love traveling. If I can go without that, I would love traveling more.
Yeah, it would. But then would it be the same? Because you got to have the rough with the smooth to enjoy the smooth, and you got to have all the, you know.
I can enjoy the smooth without the rough, mate.
Yeah, but I don't think you wouldn't appreciate it as much.
Not getting too overly philosophical. I was raised in South Africa. I've seen enough rough to be able to go, okay, fine. This is nice. Oh, this beach is nice and quiet. Nobody's bothering me. Ah, yes, I enjoy this. I don't know. When I'm on holiday, I don't want to deal with that shit.
Yeah.
When I'm on holiday, I don't want to deal with people trying to rip me off. For that reason, like the whole bartering thing, when like a taxi or a tuk-tuk, they triple charge the backpackers. This.
Yeah.
And me trying to get past that and just trying to pay a decent amount for a trip from here 3 blocks down there, doing that every single day gets I don't want to deal with that. I will do bartering once and rather rent a motorcycle for the duration of my stay in one country, but I'll go through that hassle once.
Yeah.
And then I'll have my wheels. Then I don't have to deal with a taxi driver every single day. And multiple taxi drivers, because one guy drives you there, then you want to go somewhere else, then you got another taxi driver, and every single one just tries to bend you over and rape you. So, no. It's very nice that you find that beautiful, and that is exactly the reason why different countries appeal to different people for different reasons. But I can go without that bullshit.
No, I enjoy it. I sort of, I don't know. I like it. It makes a country a country. But then I'm like you. I do appreciate it. That was one of the things about Nepal is that India is just pure chaos, and then I crossed the border and like at the border there was obviously you got a border checkpoint. You got to show your visa and your passport, that such thing. On the Indian side, there's 1,000 people trying to sell me a million different things. Little kids trying to reach into my pockets and take whatever they can and that sort of thing. Yeah, like you have to push them. Like I had to push them away, and you have to be stern. Like no, like dude, fuck off, or whatever. And then I showed the Indian guy my passport. He stamped it. I left, crossed over like a patch of gravel. Showed the Nepalese guy my passport. He stamped it, and I walked into Nepal. And the only person that even looked at me was just some guy standing there. And he was like, "Hey, man," and that was it. Like and then you look back across like this little gate that goes back into India, and it's just chaos, and it's just the space of like 100 meters. It's from quite literally downright warfare to a peaceful sort of Shangri-La in the mountains. It was mad.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I would never have pictured the difference to be so drastic.
It was for me. I can't speak for everyone's. Maybe I just caught Nepal at a good day. Everyone was off somewhere else selling people stuff. But the only problem I had was that a young boy tried to. There was like some public toilets, and I went to use it, and he was trying to get me to pay him to use the toilet, and that was about it. I was just like, no, I'm not paying. And then he got distracted by a couple that were trying to use the toilet, and I snuck in. He shouted something to me as I was leaving, though.
You take piss without pay. This is bullshit. So you run me through your trip a little bit. How easy is it to get a hostel? What else is there to do except hiking? Because, mate, I'm not gonna go hiking. No, I'm very happy that you're very enthusiastic about hiking, and do touch on it because I'm sure some people listening to this would want to hear a little bit about the hiking and how awesome it is. But for the schmucks like me that don't appreciate walking my ass off up a fucking hill, um, what else is there? Touch on both.
Uh, Up in the mountains, it is mainly just hiking that attracts most people, but there's definitely a whole sort of whole plethora of different things you can do. While I was there, I went hang gliding, um, which is relatively cheap, which is probably not a good thing considering you're attached by paracord to a parachute. But
I was
hey,
I
you
was
take the
just
risk.
about to ask, what's the health and safety there when it comes to stuff like that?
It was above a lake, so I figured I could like tuck and dive, maybe, you know. So, but yeah, there was a small town that we stayed in, which I think it's pronounced like Pokhara or Pokhara, and it's sort of considered to be the second city of Nepal. You got Kathmandu, which is the capital, and then you got this place, which is a bit more chilled out, less population, less hustle and bustle, but it had some pretty decent restaurants, both Nepalese and foreign, more sort of Western accustomed, I guess. But yeah, we went. There's a massive lake that you can go out on. There's bars and clubs that you can go to. Sort of that any sort of lifestyle that you're looking for there. It's a great place. And then you've got further down in sort of the lowlands of Nepal, sort of along the border, is more sort of tropical jungle, temperate sort of environment. And you've got a couple of great national parks like Chitwan National Park, which I unfortunately didn't get to go to, but it's one of the last refuges of tigers in Nepal. You've got rhinos that live there, which are these insanely looking animals. They look like something out of Jurassic Park or something. They've got bears there, sun bears, I believe, these massive caiman and crocodiles. So there's a lot to do. There really is. And they're kind of just. Nepal was always famous for its mountaineering, and that was what it's always attracted since the 50s when that sort of opened up a bit. It became famous with obviously Edmund Hillary climbing the mountain, and that's what put it on the map. Everyone wanted to go there. But now it's kind of going, okay, we have all these other terrains and areas of the country which people should see. They should definitely see those.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got no idea who Edmund Hillary is, and I've no idea what mountain he climbed.
What? I thought you were an intelligent man.
Like I said, mate, like
You're wearing an all black shirt. He was New Zealand.
I'm wearing an all black shirt because I enjoy rugby. Rugby and climbing are light years apart.
Yeah. But no, he was a New Zealander, Kiwi. He was the first man to climb Mount Everest. Or
Okay.
arguably, it could have been his chaperone, which was a Nepalese guy, but we'll never know, I guess.
Okay. All right, fair enough. So he's the first guy that climbed Everest. Now apparently Everest's base camp is just a bunch of heaps of garbage and feces.
Yeah, it's kind of a sad story. I heard that they'd closed it down for a while to sort of kind of clear it up. And the problem with such high altitude up in these mountains is that anything that goes up has to be carried back down. You know, there's no big truck of garbage men that come along in the morning and take everything away for you. It's, you know, all the oxygen tanks and all the equipment you take up there, you've got to bring back. And a lot of people don't. Everest is a funny one because I met a few people that were attempting other mountains, some more impressive mountains in terms of capability and how hard they are to climb. And they say that Everest now it's expensive to climb. They were telling me it's about 100,000 US dollars just to get to the top and back down. Yeah, and they say it's a lot of people climbing their ego, not the mountain. Sort of these people that are, I did Everest last year. It's just like, yeah, whatever, mate. It's
$100,000. Now, is that logistically explainable, or is that literally just charges because it's the highest peak in the world?
I honestly don't know. That's what they told me. I haven't honestly looked into it, but I imagine it's the equipment you've got to take up's got to be some pretty serious stuff. You've got oxygen tanks. Um, I guess you've got to go with like a chaperone, someone to take you up, and a local guide to take you up and get you to the top. They're the real heroes of the story because they climb the peak multiple times a year. And they're not wearing the most expensive, goose down jacket or anything like that, and they haven't got the most expensive shoes on or anything. They are, yeah, true heroes to be able to get up there and back down, but that's where they live. They're accustomed to the altitude and such. But it's expensive business.
I heard similar stories to Kota Kinabalu in Malaysia.
Oh yeah.
Where there's a Mount Kota Kinabalu, and a lot of backpackers go and climb this thing also. But the Sherpas, or if you will, just the people that carry your stuff are a bunch of old ladies.
Yeah.
So you have all these young Westerners, and a lot of them don't make it. And these old birds are actually carrying their stuff, like they're carrying supplies, and these women walk as if it's nothing and leaves the young'uns in the dust.
Yeah, it's proves how soft we are in sort of certain parts of the world where you've had it easy since you were born. You go over to there and you see sort of feats of human strength and human endurance that, not because they want to, but they just got to get shit done. That's their job,
And that's what they grew accustomed to. That's just what they used to. When we were traveling through Cambodia, first of all, everybody's smiling while they're working in the fields doing terribly hard manual labor, like stupidly difficult hard stuff. Like one day I was like, I'm going to help the ladies because they had to carry a bunch of, I think it was bags of grain or seed or something. But I can see that it was pretty heavy, but they were slugging them around, and only a bunch of women, and throwing them on their heads, and off they go.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, fine, I'll go help them. And I went to pick one up, and I was like, damn, shit, this is not easy. And these girls have been at it the whole day.
Yeah, it's a different mental attitude. Definitely, yeah. I remember when I was traveling in Indonesia, I think, and a place where I was staying, sort of next door, they were building some sort of building out of brick anyway. And from about 10 o'clock in the morning all the way to about probably nearly 10 o'clock in the evening, these guys were lumping bricks up and down ladders, and wheelbarrows full, just sort of chucking them on their shoulder and taking them up ladders. And I was just like, I probably couldn't do that for an hour, but it's just
in Thailand, a lot of the people that are now working on the construction sites doing exactly that are women.
Yeah. More power to them. I don't think you'd catch anyone in England doing that job for very long.
No. Yeah. Okay, so how are the hostels in Nepal?
The hostels are, again, anywhere from a couple of £1 a night or a couple of US dollars a night all the way up to, well, I stayed at a place called Yak and Yeti, which you wouldn't class as a hostel, but high-end hotel. But they're good. They got what you need. Sort of comfy bed, nice clean showers and toilets. Most of them, from what I stayed in, had sort of somewhat drinkable running water.
Somewhat?
Yeah, like I'd say probably about 30% of the hostels I stayed in, it was like this water they had a specific sort of tap for drinking water, which saves you having to go out and buy it, and then it's more plastic that they got to carry down the mountain again and that sort of thing. Yeah, sort of in the big towns, that's more of a thing. But out on the trek that I did the Annapurna circuit. I only managed to get halfway and then had to turn back. But it was, they call them tea houses instead of hostels or anything like that. It's more just if you live in a certain village and you have a spare room in your house, you rent it out to a backpacker or someone doing the hike. One of the places I stayed in was very nice, and then one of the places I stayed in was quite literally a shed at the back of their garden, and it was just kind of, if it was anywhere else in the world, or maybe further down the mountain or closer to a city, you'd be like, what the hell is this? I'm not paying $5 a night for this. But because you are in the middle of nowhere, and the next option is an 8-hour walk to the next town, it's like, this is, this is the Ritz. This is, it's a mattress on a floor. There's a toilet, there's a shower, and there's some food. That's all you need. So it definitely changes your perspective of what a good place to stay is. It's, yeah. But it's
Now,
lovely.
I don't know much about the Annapurna circuit.
It's a I'd probably say it's one of the most popular hikes to do in Nepal at the moment. It's a multi-week hike. It takes around about 20 to 30 days to actually complete the whole thing. And you start off in sort of somewhat lowland area, sort of temperate, humid, quite hot areas. And then you hike up around the Annapurna Massif, which is this sort of a mini mountain range within the Himalayas of, I think it's like 7 different mountain tops, all called Annapurna 1 and 2 and 3 and so on and so on. And you hike all the way around that, and then basically come back in almost a complete loop, going up to about 6,000 meters at its top altitude. So it's up there. It's not an easy hike, but it's not the hardest of hikes. Most people complete it within about 25 days. And that's with relative fitness. You can, if you've got 2 decent sets of working lungs and two legs, you can do it. You just got to push yourself. Yeah.
Why did you turn back then?
I got altitude sickness, like real bad altitude sickness, and it just wouldn't go away.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it was just the altitude sickness on its own, or if I had caught something. Maybe I was drinking too much of their drinking water that you're probably not supposed to, but hey. Yeah, I sort of got to one town and I was just really dizzy, really low blood pressure from what I remember. I remember like getting kind of stuck in my own head, counting my pulse. And it just sort of, I was traveling on my own. So like if I was with a group of people, I probably would have pushed on and been like, if I fall over, pick me up kind of thing. But because I was on my own, I was like, if I fall over and that ravine down there is like 500 foot down, like I'm gone. Like no one's going to see me or some shit like that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to head back. I've seen my part of Nepal. I'll go back, sort of change things and maybe go back up there. But my visa ran out, so I had to leave. That's why I'm going back.
Visa is always an issue. Everybody always has a visa story. Oh, I wish I could stay in this country a little bit more, but my visa ran out.
Yeah.
And every country has got their visa stuff.
The visas for Nepal was really easy to get, actually. I got it at the border, no problems. It lasted, I think I got a 30-day one, or I can't remember what I got. But the harder things to get in Nepal is if you want to do some of these more popular hikes, you have to get what they call TIMS cards, which is like a trekking permit. It's used to monitor like who's on the trek. So at one end, you'll get it stamped and signed by essentially a park ranger. And then at the other end, when you exit the trek, you're supposed to get it stamped and signed again. So they go, okay, he completed it. He's not missing. We don't have to send out a rescue party. But they're a little bit harder to get because I think they have like a quota of how many people they really want to be on the trek. But there's only certain offices that you can get it from. I had to go to Kathmandu, and the story behind it is just still kind of infuriates me now, where the office opened at 9. I got there at 9. The office didn't open till 11 because, I don't know, he was busy. I got into the office, spoke to the receptionist, and then she told me to sit down. And there was a guy sitting next to me reading a newspaper, and I sat there for an hour, sort of trying to read a Nepalese newspaper and looking at the pictures. And the guy next to me is like, you here for a permit? Or are you here to get a permit? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, they won't be very long. And I was like, fair enough. I got nothing to do today, so this is my day. And then maybe another 45 minutes goes past. He folds up his paper, gets up and sits behind the desk and then says, okay, now you want your permit?
Oh, you're joking.
No. He was sitting there for like an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours, like knowing that I was waiting for my permit. And then, I don't know, he was on a break, I guess. But what can you say? I was just like, yeah, just get me my permit. They take your photo, they sign a few things, and off you go. But
Yeah, the level of that kind of frustration also, like unless you travel, you don't
you don't see that.
realize.
Yeah.
No, there was this poor girl. I crossed the border from Thailand going into Malaysia, and this girl from China, and she literally did not try to bribe the people on the border. She just forgot to put that she hid money in her passport. And they didn't age she comes from, if you come from certain countries, you have to go into the office to, for them to stamp your stuff. You can't just be outside on the line like everybody else. And South Africa, if you have a South African passport, that's one of the countries. China is one of the countries. And she hands the guy her passport. And I saw the guy take the money out, right? And as she like she oh sorry that like I hid that money that's in there. I just forgot, and he didn't want to give it back. He's like, no, this is my money. And she's like, no, it's not his money. And he's like, and remember, this is the immigration agent. This is the guy that's supposed to stamp your
Yeah,
thing. And she's in the middle of nowhere, in this minivan. Like, that's how we got there. It's just the minivans that drive up and down Thailand. Um, and she's like, but that's my money. Like, that's a little savings stash. He goes, no, I don't. You just give me passport. Nothing in passport. Look, nothing in passport. But then he had the money in his other hand. So stuff like blatant stuff like that they do, that you just cannot do anything about.
nope. That's you just got to roll with the punches. Back when I was in Indonesia, I rented a scooter and we were just sort of driving around, and I got pulled over, and the cop sort of comes up to me and tries to do that sort of like hard man, intimidating kind of like I'm in power kind of thing, and he tried to explain to me in very broken English that the road was a one-way road, and me and him standing on the side of the road, I just sort of look at him, look at the road, and we both stand there for a couple of seconds watching traffic go in both directions. And I just sort of looked at him and grinned, and I was like, because I'm white? And he was like, yeah. I was like, fair enough. And yeah, he took me to sort of some little office or a little hut that he had at the side of the road, like a bus stop, and put this laminated piece of paper in front of me with 6 or 7 different languages on it, trying to explain it wasn't a bribe that I had to pay. It was I think he called it a tax, but a bribe anyway. And I honestly had nothing in my wallet. I was on my way to the ATM to go get money out. So good job he got me one way and not going the other way, I guess. But yeah, I said, I've got no money. I've got like, I don't know, it's the equivalent of a couple of pounds in my wallet. And he looked at me with sort of a very angry face that he'd picked the poorest white guy in Indonesia. But and to make his point a bit more solid that he wasn't to fuck around with, he sort of laid a taped up, wrapped in plastic submachine gun on the table, sort of looked me dead in the eye. I was like, this is the fine. And I was like, this is the amount of money I've got. And like, it was some raggedy ass gun that like the clip was held in with sellotape, and the stock had fallen off, so he was using some sort of like coat hanger that he'd bent or something, like, it was just a horrible state for a gun to be in. But yeah, I just remember looking at him and being like, you have really picked the wrong person. I have no money. But it's just, at the time I was like, shit, this guy's probably gonna, I don't know, take my money, take my passport, like, I don't know, shoot me with that thing if it works. But now, like, a couple of years later, or even a couple of months later, it's one of my most fond memories of the place. It's a funny story. Bring it up,
Yeah, I would. Okay. Not the kind of story that'd stick in my mind. I'll be like, that asshole, really? Try to. But I mean, a lot of the time, most of the time, they're just hot air.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. It's. They see you and they go, okay, they have a little bit of extra money. They don't know the rules. They have no one to complain to. It's, let me see what I can get out of you. You get it in London. Like if you're a tourist from, I don't know, somewhere in Asia or even an American or someone with just a bit of a funny accent, you'll get into a London taxi and they'll take you the long way, you know.
Mhm.
But if you knew London, you'd be like, no, mate, you need to take a left here and then take the next right, and that'll take you to where I'm going. But they'll take you the long way, and I think that's the same in all big cities. You see a chance, and some people will try and get it out of you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so okay. Once you turned back on the Annapurna circuit, where'd you go?
I went to that town Pokhara that I was talking about. Met up with
Yeah.
some friends there. Stayed at a really good hostel called I forget the name, but it was run by a New Zealand guy, and he was just a riot. He was like up all night drinking with everyone. I don't know how it like he'd be up until sort of like 2 in the morning. Like it wasn't a party hostel. It was just sitting around chatting, drinking, telling people stories, that sort of thing. And he'd go to bed at like 3 o'clock, and then 6 o'clock in the morning you'd see him up and he'd be working. And not hungover, not sweating, not breaking down. Just morning, how you? I don't know how he did it, but yeah, I stayed in that town, nice little town, and then I moved on and left Nepal really. But
Hmm. Yeah, very brief little. How you said you because so that was 30 days.
yeah, I was basically running out the clock, staying in Pokhara. I was, I think, on my like 22nd day when I arrived there. I walked into town and got to see parts of the town that if you get dropped off at the centre, you don't get to see, sort of the suburbs as such, if you can call it that. But yeah, I sort of stayed there, met some friends, and went and did that paragliding I was talking about, and we did some small hikes and went canoeing on the lake, and it's kind of like a little slice of paradise almost there. Not paradise in terms of like sandy beaches or anything like that, but just normality almost. Like, there's a shop down the road that shuts at 10 o'clock. You can go there and get this and this and this instead of having to hike for 8 hours and find a village where there's like two goats and a man trying to rent you a room and.
Okay, well, still don't know if I would put Nepal on the top of my list, but interesting nonetheless. And the next thing you said is Malaysia.
Yeah, Malaysia. That was a weird one. I saw like a picture in a magazine somewhere, and I was like, right, I'm finding out where that is. And I'm going to that island there, and the island turned out to be Langkawi. Langkawi it's where we met. But I was like, right, I'm going there. I got there, and I was like, you get that feeling sometimes. You're like, this feels like a little bit like home. Not that it's anything like where you come from, but it's just you feel like you belong somewhere. And I was like, hey, I'm going to stay here for a while. So I did. It was a cool little place.
When did you get that feeling? When exactly? When, like, what point was it? Was it once you got to the hostel? Was it once you landed? When did because you were the second person that told me the exact same thing, that it just felt like home. Now, what part?
I honestly can't put my finger on it, but I think it was probably about our second week there, because I landed with a friend and we were like, right, we're going to stay here for a couple of days and then we're going to move on to the more famous islands or a different part of Malaysia and see more. And we stayed there 3 days and we said, like, should we just, book a couple more nights? Like, we haven't got a plane to catch or anything. And then we booked a couple more and then a couple more. And I think after 8 weeks I left, and then eventually I came back, and it was, yeah, within the first 2 weeks I was like, this is a place I could stay. It's got enough of what you need for it to be comfortable, and it feels a little bit like home. So it gave off that vibe.
Was this on Langkawi?
Yeah, that was in Langkawi, man. So,
where did you stay the first few nights?
that I can't remember what it's bloody called now. It used to be like it was a hostel and a Thai massage parlor in one, which I'm not sure if it. You remember the big green building?
It's not Bantai.
No, it wasn't Bantai. It was if I Google Maps up it.
I know which one you mean. It's just across from the spot where the market used to be.
Yeah,
on I think Wednesday or something.
the Thursday night market was just across from there.
On Swan? No, it's not on Swan. Okay, but okay, fine. Okay, fine. So
We
how did you end up? How did you go from there to the Honey Badger?
we were we stayed there for about 2 weeks and maybe a week and a half, and we were like, look, we're spending a lot of money here. Let's try and slow things down. So I said, like, right, let's try and get some work as such. Find a hostel where we can work in, or just anything really. And yeah, we sort of looked on. I think it was Workaway, and me and my friend found you, and yeah, it was like, hi, my name's Lloyd. I run this hostel, blah blah blah. Get, like, really selling yourself, and then we turned up
Shut
to
up.
come. We turned up to come and sort of have an interview with you, and you were standing there topless in flip flops, digging a hole like some sort of madman. And I was like, this is the man I want to work for. I like this place.
Oh right, I was digging the foundation. No, no, I was taking out a old fallen coconut tree that had to be removed so we can lay the foundation of the hostel. You guys were there
Yeah,
before that was before the hostel was built.
yeah, you hadn't laid anything, but like when we turned up, it looked like you were burying the last people that had worked for you, and that's why you put the advert out. But instantly I was like, yeah, I like this man. I want to live. I want to stay here for a bit. So
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Fuck. Okay. Hey man, I put a lot of work into that place.
yeah, man, you worked like a demon to get that up and running, and it was like, I still talk to a few people that stayed at the hostel, like the second time when I came back to Langkawi, and it's still one of the coolest places they stayed, man. Like, you did something special there. If you don't realize it, or if you do realize it, it was a cool place. It was a home for a lot of people for a while.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that, you know, uh, that it's not an operation anymore. It's unfortunate that um my business partners, one on the one side. Okay, so for people who don't know, um, there were two separate places. There was kind of like a small little boutique guest house on the one side with how many houses were there? One,
Four?
two, three, four, five. Five places that we rented out, and they were old school, traditional Malay houses made out of wood on the stilts, really old Malay kampong, which is village in Malay houses. And so I had a business partner with that on that side, and then we built the hostel out of the shipping containers, and that was called the Honey Badger Hut. So you guys were actually there before the Honey Badger was there.
Yeah, we turned up. Yeah, it was just the five rooms which you rented out, sort of Airbnb style, and that was pretty much my job. Sort of wake up, clean out the rooms, tend to anybody's needs, sort of whatever you needed done. And it was before any of the containers turned up. I don't even think you laid the foundations.
No,
Um,
if I remember that I was digging and taking out the fallen tree because its roots were everywhere. Um, and I can't remember the actual meetup, but I remember I was waiting for somebody. I kept on looking up because I was expecting somebody, and I wasn't sure from which direction you guys were going to come. Were you going to come over the water, the river at the back, or in the front? So I was constantly like looking as I was busy trying to get this fucking tree out of the ground.
yeah, it made you look very sort of shifty and like you were up to something that you didn't want anyone else to see. And sort of add in the fact that you had three dogs all around you that sort of seemed to be even sort of protecting you, and then two cows, and then yeah, sort of we turned up and I was just like, this man looks mental, but I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, man, it was a good little place. It really was.
Yeah, like Langkawi's sort of it was a weird place. It sort of really struck a chord with me. Like, I'd like to go back and visit, sort of see some friends, um, just to see how it's changed. But then part of me is like, shall I? do I want to go back and not ruin the memory, but change the memory, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, as time goes on, there's actually a study done on this where they wanted to see how people value things like objects versus experiences over time. So if you remember when you were a kid and you got a new toy, it's your favorite toy, or something that you really wanted for a long time. With me, it was like a cricket bat or a rugby ball, or you wanted to sleep with that sucker in your bed. Like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. 2 weeks later, it's whatever.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
I've got it. I'm happy I've got it, but it's there. So the perceived value diminishes over time.
Oh, for sure.
Whereas experiences, travel, that kind of thing, over time, the perceived value increases.
Definitely, 100% agree with that. If it's a study, then yeah, it's.
I'll actually try and get the study because I did read it briefly, not the whole bloody thing, but like an article about it. I'll try and get it. I'll send you a link, mate. But
yeah, send it over.
So because of that, you'll always remember things more fondly than what they were, number one. And number two, when you go back, just the fact that the place has changed, it'll be like, it's not the way I remember. So I wouldn't go back. Not, probably not.
No, I definitely want to go back to Malaysia because there's a few parts that I didn't see, but Langkawi I might. Yeah, I'm really torn about it. Like, I want to go sit back and see a friend of mine, and but then I don't. There's something about having those moments in history and leaving them that way, and even if you don't remember it completely 100% correctly, like you say, it's sort of your mind warps it to be more fond or less fond of a situation. It's those fleeting moments where they've got to stay in the past to be worth something too, I think.
Yeah, I'm seriously, I'm considering opening up another spot somewhere. I'm not sure where. I'm not sure, but if I do open up another spot, there will most definitely be cows, and there'll be puppies. Or dogs.
Well, we need to talk out of the recording then, because I'm looking at doing the same thing with most definitely cows and puppies. I've taken your idea and gone, yeah, I'll do that.
Dude, people still today talk about like how oxtail is just, we're having a barbecue or whatever, there's fire, around in front of the hostel, and there's everybody sitting around, and then oxtail would just meander in and put his head on your lap. Now, if for people that don't know, oxtail was the bull. He wasn't a massive like behemoth of a cow, but he was the male. He was bigger than the other ones, but he would just plump his head in your lap and like, now it's time for you to rub my face. Rub me.
I remember, like, he was a character all of his own. He was, he was a bull, and he was a big boy compared to me. But I remember cooking in the kitchen one day and just turning around, and he's just in there with me, just chilling, just like, what's happening, man? Like, what's going on in here? Like, and then trying to get him out the kitchen. It's a small door, and if he doesn't want to move, he's not going to move. So. He was a cow that thought he was a dog. I think that's his mentality.
Oh, the dog food. Yeah, he would always eat the dog food. And he broke a bunch of bowls in the kitchen because cows love bread. If you have a cow that you want to tame up, coax his affection with bread. They love bread. And I would give them treats of bread, usually once a day, and not too much, and he snuck into the kitchen once, and there was a whole loaf of bread on top of a glass. It was basically a serving dish kind of thing, and he just grabbed the bread and pulled it off of the thing, and bam, there goes the whole. It's like, oxtail, stop it.
He was a character who used to get into all sorts of. Do you remember that time when he went missing and we had to go look for him on the motorbikes?
Oh yeah, and he was way the hell out.
Out by the airport. Just chilling, just you know.
Yeah, and then when he wants to starts being playful, and he wants to like bump against me, and
Yeah.
I'll give him my knee to. But he never hurt me. He's such a he was a. I want. He should probably still be there. I guess. I hope he's still there.
Yeah, he was a gentle giant. He really was. He's, you know, for the animal of his size, if he wanted to, you could push her around, no problem. But he understood that if he was affectionate, he'd get what he wanted, and what he wanted was either bread or dog food. So that's
Or just scratches. And then every morning we would lead the cows to the pasture,
yeah,
and with a short little lead, walk
like a
them, and that was always the favorite part of the backpackers of the volunteers day. Everybody was fighting. They wanted to be the ones to take the cows out in
yeah,
the morning.
yeah. I remember that, like people coming down like 6 o'clock in the morning and being like, "Have the cows gone out yet?" And he'd be like, "They're just about to go." And they're like, "Can I take them?" And you're like, "Well, sorry, this person's got dibs." And sometimes there'd be like a group of 8 people walking 3 cows down. And like, we used to get people come in like, "Is this the place with the cows?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And they'd be like, "Oh, okay, can we book a night?" And I'm just like, "Is that
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, when I used to work like reception and stuff, or you get like an email or like a message, like whatever it was. I'd be like, "Is this the place with the cows? Like, we heard you had cows. Like, where's the cows?" And I'd be like, "Oh, they're out eating at the moment." And they're like, "Oh." And then like they come wandering back with one of the volunteers, and everybody would be like, "Oh my god!" They were like some sort of like almost like minor celebrities. It was weird.
I didn't know. I didn't work that many reception area sessions.
Yeah,
I only worked reception if the volunteers couldn't cover the shifts, or somebody was missing, or whatever the case may be. Somebody was sick. So I didn't really hear any of that.
no, like people love the cows, like taking photos of them and just. Do you remember like you had the sort of like a little sheltered area out the front of the hostel where everyone used to sit and chat and smoke and whatever they were doing, and the cows would just, I guess, because they liked the light and maybe even just like the company, they would come and just plonk themselves down in the middle. If you were in their way, you had to move. That was their spot at night, and everybody was just like, "Oh my god, like these cows are like dogs." And it's like, yeah, and like Oxtail would be sitting in front of me, and I just like put my feet up on his legs or something, and he just look at me like, "Yeah, this is the life for a cow, man." It was. What cow gets treated better?
Yeah. There was a place on the island where you could go buy cow food, and it's good cow feed. It's not bad, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. So every once in a blue moon, it's a big ass bag too, and every once in a blue moon, I would go buy them. Like when Kobe just gave birth to dinner, I I bought some cow feed for her to kind of just bump up her condition, produce a little bit more milk, make sure that the calf is fed well. Also, didn't take her out to the field because there's stray dogs and stuff, wandering around. I didn't want them nipping at the small calf and what. So I bought some of these, and they loved it. So every now and then I'll go and give them. They were spoiled.
Yeah,
Definitely
they were.
every night they'll have their like 2 or 3 slices of bread, and I'll call them. I enjoyed this part. This part is like what the small things that I enjoy. I would go into the kitchen, get some slices of bread, walk out, and just say their name, just shout their names. Go there, Oxtail, and they'll know. They'll hear me. They know that's when the bread time, and they come running.
Yeah, yeah. Kobe was like, she was a bitch to me sometimes. Like, I remember one time she sort of swung her head at me and like nearly took out my stomach with one of her horns. And just, but yeah, like she would be either really sweet to me or really just a proper bitch. But I think that was after she, like the time, when was it? I think it was like, I came back from Indonesia or something, back to Langkawi, and you were there for like 2 days, and you were like, "Yeah, Kobe's pregnant. She's probably going to drop in a couple of days. I'm off to Thailand. See you later." And like, I'm just sitting there like, "What?" And it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm watching this small calf just fall out the back of a cow. Just like, what has Lloyd done to me? Like, why is he just gone? It's just like, you sort of said it to me like I know what I'm on about. Like, oh yeah, I know what a cow's vagina looks like. That's normal. That's how a cow gives birth. I'm like watching this sort of scene out of Alien or something, and I'm just like, yeah, I guess that's how it goes on. And this little thing came out, and within a couple of minutes, he was up on his legs, and sort of, yeah, it was cool to watch. But screw you for leaving me.
Hey man, like when I spoke to you after that, you were like giddy. You were like, man, this is a great experience,
Yeah, it was.
and now you want to be all throwing verbal. No, that's unnecessary. Just look at the good.
It was sort of like there was two other people there. I think it was some other volunteers that were working there. I forget their names. I think one was called James, and yeah, they sort of just upped and left, and I was sat there with this cow, sort of moaning because she's giving birth. And, like, I wouldn't know what to do if a human was giving birth, let alone a cow. Like what do you say to a cow? Like, it's going to be all good, breathe. Like, what do you say? But yeah, she gave birth, and then we had, what was it? I can't remember what we called the calf. Like dinner, wasn't it, or lunch? That was the second time. I can't remember, but
dinner was. Oh shit! I can't even remember.
I think dinner was when I was there. That was the one that was born, and then when I came back after traveling, lunch was also there. She'd had a second calf, I think.
So I had to help with lunch because that was the bigger cow, the bigger female, and she had problems with giving birth.
Yeah.
I remember that I was in the car. I drove out of the yard, and I saw, okay, because a cow is born with its front hooves out and head first. And I saw the hooves sticking out a little bit. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm only going to be gone for like a half an hour. If I come back and half an hour, 45 minutes. If I come back and the cow's not born yet, I know there's trouble.
Yeah.
But it would be enough time to, kind of, if she can do it herself, she would. 30 minutes would be enough. Okay, the calf's not going to die, but then I'll know there's a problem. And I came back and the calf didn't move at all. And I was like, all right, we got issues. So I made a makeshift drukhang. I don't know what drukhang is in Afrikaans. Oh, in English. It's basically just a narrow place where you put the cow in and put some things at the back so she can't kick you, just to keep her in place. And slapped this thing together real quick and had to help because her cervix was a little bit small. The calf was stuck, so I had to yank the calf, like not yank, but help release the calf. And as soon as the calf dropped, as soon as the calf was out, that poor cow was so tired, she just basically collapsed.
Correct.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's on Instagram. You can go and see it.
I'll give that a miss. I've seen enough cow pussy for one lifetime.
And you know what the messed up thing is? I asked, because you need water to clean your hands. There's a lot of placenta, there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of everything. There's you can need extra hands. The more hands you have to help, the better. There were, I think, 4 or 5 volunteers there at the same time. And I was like, look, guys, I'm going to need some help. Can I need, every single one of them, instead of helping me, had their phone out. You fucking idiots. But, yeah. But it is on Instagram. You can have a look.
The cows were, like the cows and the dogs and the cats, even though they sort of seem to come and go as they please. But that was what made that place cool. Sort of, yeah, that's what it was.
So tell me about this this idea of yours. Are you trying to
the hostel idea?
Yeah.
It's slightly different, more. Essentially, like the only idea I've copied of you as such is it's a hostel and there's going to be animals, because it was proven in Langkawi where if you had a cow, people flock to it for some reason because they've never seen a cow before. That anyway. So yeah, similar idea, sort of certain hostel. Not too sure what location yet. Somewhere on sort of that kind of backpackers trail. Kind of just try and get it set up, I guess. But that's kind of a dream for the future, maybe.
Well, it has to be a tame cow, and it takes a lot of work to getting a tame cow. So you don't. Ooh, look, we have a cow. Oh, look, it's plowing through those group of volunteers. There he goes.
As long as they've already paid for their room, I don't care.
Yeah, well, it was a good spot. But that chapter is learned a lot. Not so much. I didn't learn so much new things when it comes to like the industry, hoteliering, that kind of thing, but just dealing with people, like where you should when it comes to a partnership, where you should nip it in the butt, and kind of put your foot down and say, look, just handling that scenario better. Yeah,
you live and you learn. It's kind of like for me personally, it was one of those moments where it's like, that happened, it's never going to happen again. I'm probably never going to find an experience similar to that happening again. But I'm glad I was there.
Yeah.
It's one of those sort of, I believe in these kind of like fleeting moments where you get it less nowadays because everybody wants to record everything and take photos of everything. And everyone you meet's like, oh, add me on Instagram, add me on Facebook, add me on Grindr or whatever they've fucking got, whatever. But like, I met some good friends and some people there, and I never kept in touch. I don't have any photos of them, but in my head, they are always that person that I met. I didn't add them on Facebook, and I didn't have to, see their bullshit political views or their horrible taste in music afterwards, and it didn't ruin that moment or that person in my head. That person is always out there traveling, no matter what they do in real life. It's hard to explain, but sometimes it's not good to capture the moment. Sometimes it's just let the moment go. And
isn't Grindr a sex app for gay guys?
I don't know. You would know, wouldn't you? What is it?
No, you said Grindr. You said Grindr just before, as like Instagram, and like that's why I was like, what is Grindr? And then
yeah, I just thought you. I just thought you were on Grindr, weren't you?
No.
I don't know why I said that, but anyway. No, I'm not gay, Luke. Well, maybe I am. Hey.
Okay. It's just odd that you would say that. And a very weak attempt to turn it around on me, seeing that we've got video evidence.
I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, like, I'm half drunk. I'm drinking whiskey.
So, is that what that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shackleton whiskey.
So, besides Langkawi in Malaysia, what else? Where else did you go? Or was Langkawi basically like your main spot?
In Malaysia, it was my main spot. Like I started off and went back to Kuala Lumpur, traveled to Penang for a couple of days, visited places like Georgetown and stuff like that in Penang, which is a very nice spot. But yeah, I arrived in Malaysia with the intention of like, right, let's travel around the whole country, see everything, and kind of got to Langkawi and we're like, why do I want to leave? This place is the spot. Maybe if I had left, I probably wouldn't have given it as much sort of credit that I do, but yeah, I just kind of fell there and stayed there. It was nice.
It's weird because a lot of backpackers miss Langkawi because there's a preconceived notion that there's not much to do in Langkawi.
Yeah, it's sort of talking to some people. It's sort of very much a route that people take, sort of like a well-trodden path down south from Thailand on the way to Singapore or Indonesia or somewhere else in Malaysia. And a lot of people, I think, go from places like some of the islands in southern Thailand to Penang or straight to Kuala Lumpur, and they don't see that little island off the east coast. And then people that did arrive, some of them were like, there's not much to do here. It's not for me. It's not, we always used to get people saying like, oh, when's the full moon party? And I'd be like, this isn't Thailand anymore. This is Malaysia. Like, they don't really do that over here. And they'd be like, oh, like, well, I've come all this way for one. And it's like, well, there's another
You should
country.
have done some. Yeah, you should have done some reading, mate.
Yeah, that's why I liked it, because I travelled. I'd had the experience of the entire sort of plethora of things you can do when you do travel. Everything from crazy party nights down to chilling on a beach, just doing some yoga or whatever. And I think it was just nice because it was just normal. Like, yeah, you could go off into the jungle, and there was a few sort of tourist attractions that you could do, but then there was also just a regular Malay town that wasn't full of tourist attractions just down the road, and you could drive around relatively safely. It was a safe island as such. It wasn't crazy dangerous. And I think a lot of people liked it because it was normal. It wasn't trying to be some party destination. It wasn't trying to be some ultra expensive, over the top sort of holiday destination. It was just Malaysia. Hey? It was just, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, Langkawi's got a couple of good beaches. It's got a couple of good waterfalls. Like you say, it's got the jungles you can go and walk in if you want. You can go to the mangrove tours on the top. Good food, really good food.
Yeah, like it had everything, but it wasn't the best at anything. It was just normal. It was just a nice place to be. And yeah, like you say, it had some good waterfalls, good beaches, some really good food, like a couple of restaurants in the main strip, which was kind of, yeah, just, well, me and you used to go for, where was that place we used to eat quite a lot? Red Tomato?
Red Tomatoes there, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good place.
I think it's Farmer's Breakfast or Farmer's something. That was good. And then Yasmin.
Oh, yes. Oh, I remember that place.
Definitely needs a mention.
Yeah, the food there.
Yasmin was good. So good, in fact, that you two decide to, when I went to Visa Run, you guys decided to go there on and charge it to the company.
Oh yeah, shit.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say that wasn't my idea, but it was a good idea.
Yeah. That irritated me a little bit. I was like, don't I pay for these assholes' food already? I buy their food already, and what do they do? They go and that's a nice hotel. Oh, sorry, that's a very nice restaurant. They go to the restaurant and make me pay for it.
You made me look at a cow falling out of another cow. Like, that was payback.
I'm sorry that nature scars you so much.
I forgot we did that.
Yeah, you did. I did not forget you did that.
Yeah. Still stand by it.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. What? All right. So you said your next destination is going to be where? Oh, going to India and up in Nepal again, right?
Yeah, India, Nepal. Hopefully up into Kashmir, but it's a bit. They're kind of, well, Kashmir's always been on the verge of sort of civil unrest, and there's always protests going on because they want some autonomy and independence. But I don't know the full story, but it's, yeah, hopefully up to there. And then after there, it's on to Vietnam, back into sort of Southeast Asia. And then hopefully, if it's down to sort of my plan, Lucy wants to travel a few other places, but I would like to visit a few other places. We're kind of, after that, we get a bit divided, like, right, where to go. But it'll probably come down to where's the cheapest and where have we heard is good. Because I always find that sort of any plan to travel never survives sort of your first contact with a country. Yeah. Like you'll land in the country and be like, right, I'm going to go here. And then you'll meet someone and be like, no, don't go there, go here. And you're like, okay, I'll go there. And the plan never works. So.
Yeah, fair enough. Are you planning on taking your stuff with and making some episodes for us.
Yeah, I've got everything pretty much set up for that. Going to be running a full system, taking everything with me. It's all going to fit into not a suitcase as such, like one of those sort of roadie cases that they use for sort of recording equipment, that kind of thing. And yeah, hopefully I'll be sort of the traveling podcaster, working on my own podcast on the side. But yeah, see how it goes. It might get stolen within 3 days, but hey, it's
yeah, that's gonna be a big problem. You better make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and be sort of, I'm not stupid about that sort of thing, but also get it insured. So if it does, then it's not I can go buy more equipment, or not the same equipment, but something different.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And your podcast that you're working on the side is going to be a history-based podcast.
History-based podcast as such, with a few sort of interview. I'm working with a guy at the moment who, one of the episodes that I'm hopefully going to be releasing sometime soon is about the history of the hippie trail. So in the sort of the late 50s, 60s and 70s, people traveling from Western Europe, taking sort of the hippie trail across Asia into places like Northern India, somewhere into Thailand, stuff like that. He's a historian on the topic, so I'm going to hopefully sit down with him and discuss sort of the whole history of it, what caused it, why did people like doing it. But the benefit is as well that he went on that hippie trail back in the 60s. Oh. So I want to hear his stories. Like, he stayed in Kabul in the 60s, and he was like, if you said anyone today, like Kabul, Afghanistan, they'd be like, okay, yeah, war, bombs, mines, all the bad things that you associate with the war in Afghanistan. But when he went there, Kabul was famous for two things: opium, which it's still famous for, and hashish, or weed. And that's why all the hippies went there. They traveled, 6,000 plus miles just to get stoned in these places. And it's kind of, that's what my podcast is going to be about. It's just, why do people travel? Famous people that did travel and explore stuff, and what that means for where it could be going in the future, kind of thing.
Intriguing.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, a lot of research to be doing on some sort of these historical topics. But that's just a fun hobby for me, so why not?
Yeah, but I mean, stuff like that would be. I would find it interesting because I never knew that there was a hippie trail, like a hippie backpacking trail.
No, you never heard of that?
Oh, no, mate.
I guess maybe it's more famous in the UK and Europe, but it was kind of just there was an expedition with the Oxford and Cambridge universities in, I believe, 1958, and they drove from London to Kathmandu, I want to say. I think it was Kathmandu. And then people kind of realized, you can drive to these sort of far off, far east sort of mythical places that no one had ever really been to. People from England had never really been there, at least. So people were like, sort of, like the old VW sort of camper vans that are associated with hippiedom. Like they would kit those out, and they would pile like 10 teenagers in the back, and they would drive to places like Tashkent and Kathmandu and Tibet and Srinagar and Kashmir, and through some of what is now some of the most war-torn part of the world, like Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Eastern Turkey, places like that. And back then they were very undeveloped, very sort of nomadic areas. And some of the stories that you read is just insane. Like rocking up in sort of Lebanon, and there's just, white Mercedes everywhere, and everyone is just stoned out of their head because that's the thing to do there. It's, no different than smoking a cigarette back in London, kind of thing. It's, and then that kind of, I think that is the basis of what morphed into people traveling to Southeast Asia. There was a revolution in Iran which kind of closed off part of the route. And then the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, which closed off part of the route again. And it kind of ended, but then instead of going overland, people took planes and jets and flew there. They flew to Bangkok, they flew to Cambodia, that sort of thing. And it kind of carried on that way. So the hippie trail is much the modern backpackers trail in Southeast Asia, just a different variation of it.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that'll be interesting. Send me the link and let me know, and it'll be interesting. An interesting listen.
Yeah, I haven't got anything worked out just yet. It's going to be a couple of months maybe, but I'm learning lots every day and getting my equipment ordered soon. So, yeah.
All right, mate. But thank you. Thanks for the chat.
It's all right. It's
Hour and
good
30.
to see you.
Yeah. Let me stop recording.